and welcome to History Made Simply, your one-stop history hot back in time, where each week we'll be uncovering history's secrets for you. Make sure to like this episode and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for weekly History Made Simply episodes. On today's episode, get your khaki trousers, felt fedora hat and bullwhip as we're on the hunt for stones in Egypt to unlock the mysteries of the universe. And I don't mean infinity stones. We will be dusting off the sand from the mysterious past of the Rosetta Stone. So what is the Rosetta Stone, I hear you ask? The Rosetta Stone was discovered on the 15th of July 1799 by French soldiers in Rosetta, where we now know to be El Rashid in Egypt. 1799 was a period of the Napoleonic Wars, and Napoleon Bonaparte was currently in Egypt during his campaign to colonize the country. Napoleon invaded Egypt in 1978 with an army of 40,000 men and a group of academics who, under Napoleon's command, were going to investigate the ancient ruins of Egypt. The discoveries made by his academics fired up interest in ancient Egyptian civilization, not just in France, but all over Western Europe. While there, French engineer Pierre-François Bouchard discovered the granite stone in an old fort, and it was excavated and eventually presented to Napoleon as they believed it was something important and of course valuable, despite the fact it was damaged, missing sections of the slab. And rightly so, because it was. The stone they found, soon called the Rosetta Stone, had 3 columns of different texts engraved on it. The top of the granite in the first column is ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, which no one knew how to translate in 1799, and was missing a very large portion of text at the top where the stone had been broken. The middle section is in the Demotic script, a cursive form of writing system of Egyptian hieroglyphics, and is relatively intact in comparison to the other 2 scripts. The text at the bottom of the stone is in ancient Greek. Quickly, it was ascertained that the 3 texts on the stone must be the same text in 3 different written languages. In 1800, copies of the stone were made in the hopes of translating the text. Jean-Joseph Marcel was the first to recognize the middle text, identifying it as Egyptian Demotic script, a written format that was used instead of hieroglyphs. But this magical mystery stone was seized under the Treaty of Alexandria by the British in 1801 after they overthrew the French, who had no choice but to surrender and give up the prize, along with many other ancient Egyptian artifacts they had found. Despite resistance from the French at surrendering the artifacts, soon the stone was on board the captured HMS Egyptine and reaching England in 1802 and present to King George III. Scholars viewed it at the Society of Antiques of London before reaching the British Museum. 4 plaster casts of the inscriptions were made for the benefit of 4 universities: Cambridge, Oxford, Edinburgh and Trinity College Dublin. Soon after, much printing copies of the stone resulted in the prints of the stone being distributed in Europe for scholars to attempt to read it and decipher it. Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and indeed ancient language and script, had not been used or understood since before the fall of the Roman Empire. Though it is over 4,000 years old, the art of reading and writing either hieroglyphs or written format, Demotic script of it, eventually became specialised and soon forgotten and no longer exercised. Yet the use of ancient Greek at the bottom was great, because ancient Greek at this point was widely understood and could be read. However, even the ancient Greek inscription proved tricky to decode. Key people responsible for decoding the stone were Thomas Young, a British physicist who identified some hieroglyphs pictured was sounding out a royal name. Jean-Francis Champollion, a French scholar, identified the hieroglyphics recorded the sound of Egyptian language, and alphabetic signs were used for foreign names and Egyptian names. He realised hieroglyphs was a phonetic language. The inscriptions, though all varying from one another, are all a royal decree about an Egyptian king, Ptolemy V, whereby they honour the king and his reign. The stone was inscribed in 197 BCE. The stone itself is not unique. There would have been multiple stone decrees inscribed for the king and placed around the temple showing support from the priests. Think of it as an ancient newspaper article honouring a king. Furthermore, since the discovery of the stone, there have been other examples of decrees inscribed into granite. But what makes the stone so special and renowned is the fact that before this was uncovered and deciphered, No one in the world at the time knew how to read ancient hieroglyphics or Demotic script. It was a language completely lost in time. With the discovery of the stone and the race to decipher it, despite taking 2 decades, soon the world held scholars racing to decode it. And decode it they did. Once the stone provided the code for understanding how to read ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, it then meant scholars could read the ancient hieroglyphs found in all of the pyramids, tombs and ancient monuments in Egypt. This code breaking essentially opened up the ancient Egyptian world for translation, so the scholars could read, interpret and understand the ancient Egyptian world. And while the Rosetta Stone was the key to unlocking the ancient civilization of Egypt, its discovery influenced the influx of archaeology in Egypt. Due to the interest, ancient Egyptian civilization influenced the Regency furniture, incorporating ancient Egyptian symbols and shapes. Such design can be found in the Prince Regent's Pavilion in Brighton in the United Kingdom. The Rosetta Stone, though holding the key to unlock an ancient civilization, is a damaged antiquity. It is irregularly shaped stone of black granite, measuring 3 feet 9 inches, which is 114 centimeters long, and is 2 feet 4.5 inches wide, which is 72 centimeters. The Rosetta Stone is still on display in the British Museum. Originally, it was on an open display, resting at an angle, and could be touched by visitors, despite being told to refrain from doing so. Now it sits behind a glass cabinet, still viewable but untouchable, so as to prolong its life. The stone has been continuously on display, even during restoration of it. Still fancy touching a piece of ancient history? There is a replica in the King's Library on display that can be touched if you're feeling fancy. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Rosetta Stone for History Made Simply. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and watch our next episode.